Welcome to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong strategic national security-oriented policies. Our movement consists of more than 20,000 people in Israel, including many reserve officers and operators from all branches of the Israel Defense Establishment who believe that strong national security and staunch Zionism are necessary for Israel to be the eternal homeland of the Jewish people. Thank you, of course, to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning into these war briefings. It's so important to us that we are able to share these updates and analysis with you. We are joined today by Brigadier General Amir Avivi, founder and chairman of IDSF, and we are going to try to spend the entire briefing today running through all of your questions. People have submitted questions over the past week. You're, of course, welcome to send in questions right now in the chat. And we're going to try to get to as many questions as we can, with the general answering them as much as possible. So we'll start with the first question. General Avivi, there seems to be a growth, unfortunately, in the death toll of Israeli soldiers right now in the operations in southern Gaza. Is there anything specific causing this?
Okay, so I'll start maybe by just saying what's going on now in Gaza. Basically, the IDF has control of the northern part of Gaza. There is a certain specific area in the north called Tufah that we're still cleaning up, but overall, the IDF is controlling Gaza. It doesn't mean northern part of Gaza. It doesn't mean that there are no terrorists. It means operational control. Still, there could be local terrorists here and there. This is the north. In the south, there is fierce fighting in Khan Yunis. Khan Yunis is the stronghold of Hamas, where all the leadership is. And there are 5 infantry brigades attacking there with a lot of combat engineers, tanks, artillery, and air force. And they're moving slowly but steadily, really also analyzing the underground infrastructure in order to reach the headquarters of Hamas leadership and destroy this leadership and also try to find the hostages. So the fighting is fierce because this is a very defining moment. We're talking here about really the center of gravity of Hamas and where the leadership is, and this is why it's so complicated. So we talked about the north, we talked about the south. There is the center of Gaza, what we call the central camps. Central camps of Gaza. As of yesterday, it started with a very big attack of the Air Force. And now we have many forces that are attacking the central part of Gaza. And when I look at the fact that we defeated Hamas in the north of Gaza, we are now attacking the center of Gaza. And at the same time, we're also Khan Yunis, the south of Gaza, with only really one place where there is no ground incursion at the moment, which is Rafah, where most of the Palestinians moved to. This creates the terms for the destruction of Hamas as an organization on the governmental level and as a military force. So I think that the coming weeks are going to be very, very defining, and we can bring to the point where Hamas will collapse as an organization. Still, there will be terrorists to deal with. Still, there will be a lot of work which can take a year or a year and a half to dismantle all this huge terror infrastructure. But this is a very defining moment, the coming weeks, that the IDF is operating. Why it's so difficult? Because this is the moment that it's life or death for Hamas, and they're fighting. But we have the upper hand.
Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu recently said that this is going to be a long war. Did he say this because he's trying to build resilience in the Israeli society, or that something changed and there was an original assumption to be shorter, and now new information has developed it will be longer?
No, we knew from day one that this is going to be a long war. As I said before, even comparing to Operation Defensive Shield, when we took over the cities in Judea and Samaria, it took a month and a half to take the cities. It took 5 years to stabilize the situation. So I don't know if we need 5 years in Gaza, but definitely it's going to be more than a year. The infrastructure there is unbelievable. They build the whole city underground, and just to really find it, map it, destroy it, it's going to take a long time.
In terms of the involvement of Islamic Jihad, do they also need to be destroyed, or the focus is exclusively on Hamas?
There is no difference. We have to destroy all the terror infrastructure, whether it's Palestinian Jihad or Hamas, the same thing.
We have a question here about some of the tactics in Gaza. The Israeli forces eliminated a swarm of 7 attack drones using a new technology allowing for more pinpoint accuracy. Are you able to either comment on this specific smash technology or discuss more broadly other innovative technologies being deployed in Gaza right now?
So when you talk about drones, you have basically two ways, main ways to deal with this. Or you kinetically shoot them down, shoot at them, or you have to disrupt the communication of the drone and then take it out of order. And the IDF is developing both capabilities. One of the problems is Hamas is using drones that are connected to a wire, very long wire, and then it's hard to disrupt it because it's a wire. It's not like Bluetooth. So there is all the time technological developments how to deal with such kind of drones.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Some of the big news right now is that Egypt proposed a ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel, the whole 3-stage plan, and it was rejected, but ultimately that plan would preserve Hamas after the war. And I think very notably, Saudi Arabia and the UAE seem to endorse such a plan. What are your thoughts on those countries coming together to almost prop up Hamas after the war?
I think it's unacceptable. I think we have to, yeah, I think it's unacceptable. We have to stick to the goals of war, which is the complete eradication of Hamas.
Okay, everyone, I think we lost the general for a second. Is he back? Let's see. General Avivi, can you hear me?
Moshe, can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you. We lost you. So I guess I'll repeat that part of the question because I don't know where we lost you at. But in terms of Saudi Arabia and the UAE expressing interest in being involved in a ceasefire peace plan, what is your read on that? General, are you with us here? I think we're having some reception issues.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, thank you so much for your patience. It seems like the general is not having the best reception right now. Let's see if we can get him back on. Hold on a bit.
So, can you hear me?
Now we hear you.
Shaq,
Now
can
we
you hear
hear
me?
you. Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm on my way to Beersheba and the Gaza Strip, so I don't know. Reception is not at its best here. Sorry.
Right.
What was the question?
Oh, okay. So again, this proposed deal from Egypt, which would leave Hamas in place, obviously, you said that's not a good thing. Okay, but in terms of Saudi Arabia and the UAE expressing an opinion on what's happening in Gaza, is that itself progress, or because it was attached to this deal, it's not good at all?
Well, I think that really, while we're focusing on destroying Hamas, all these ideas, are not so dramatic at the moment. The only thing that maybe can be relevant is if there is a hostage deal. If Hamas feels pressured enough to agree to a deal, what will be interesting after the war is maybe using the experience of Saudi Arabia and the UAE in how to do like denazification of the Gaza Strip the way they managed to do it in their own countries by changing the way the society is educated, especially in the mosques.
Sure. Okay, let's leave the topic of Gaza for a moment and talk about what's happening on the Israel's northern border. So there were reports over the weekend that Hezbollah is withdrawing some of their special Radwan forces from southern Lebanon because there's some type of fear of an IDF attack. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I want to mention for a moment, the tactics in the north, because we've seen ongoing attacks of Hezbollah along the border. And the way the IDF is now operating in the north is really targeting very precisely Radwan forces along the border in a way that any force that is in the perimeter of like 5 kilometers is being destroyed. And this is gradually tactically pushing Hezbollah north, trying to create some kind of perimeter, even if it's not at the moment 1701 and a full withdrawal of Hezbollah. So the attacks of the IDF are fierce at the moment and very, very systematic.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, thank you to all of our viewers who are sending in questions and staying with us despite some of the reception limitations. Someone just wrote in about tunnels. Are there any tunnels in the north of Israel like there are in the south?
So we saw that in an operation of Yalom, following intelligence, we found many tunnels of Hezbollah along the border. And because we don't have the same kind of technological barrier in the north as we do in Gaza, we don't really know. There might be also other tunnels, which we didn't detect. We don't have at the moment any specific intelligence about that, but that might be. We don't know. We'll have to see and follow and hope that there are no more tunnels, but who knows? They are using the same tactics, both Hamas and Hezbollah in this sense.
Is there any concern that there are tunnels from southern Lebanon entering into Israel, or the concern is that just within southern Lebanon there are tunnels?
No, inside, of course, there are, just like Hamas. They are built the same way, and with a lot of underground infrastructure. But there might also be offensive tunnels crossing from Lebanon to Israel, although we think we found all of them, but who knows? Because we don't have a underground technological barrier like we have in Gaza, we cannot be 100% sure that there is no crossing tunnel into Israel.
Right. Let's move to Yemen for a moment. The Wall Street Journal reported that Iran is providing intelligence to the Houthis in Yemen. Is that new information? Is that shocking? Does that change anything in terms of how Israel or the U.S. deals with the Houthis?
No, it goes without saying. I mean, the whole Houthis, the militias in Iraq, in Syria, Lebanon, Hamas, they are all Iranian militias. They are all Iranian proxies. And they all rely on Iranian intelligence, technology, money, direction, know-how. It's all Iran. Are basically fighting Iran, and the IDF understands that, and the Mossad and so on understand that the core enemy we're fighting is Iran.
All right. We have questions all over the place. So, General, we really appreciate jumping from question to question. Let's go back to tunnels for a second. Are there tunnels in Yehuda v'Shomron? Is that a concern?
Well, we heard this week in a town called Bat Hefer, that is really on Road 6, really close to a Palestinian city called Tulkarem. They have been hearing for a whole year excavation underground. This became like public knowledge. It was on TV yesterday, today. I discussed it on TV. And definitely there might be tunnels also along the very long perimeter of Judea and Samaria, 700 kilometers from Beersheba to the north. So this is something that might exist, and we need to really go and check and try to understand what's going on there.
And to clarify, when the IDF finds a tunnel, what is the protocol? Is it destroyed or it's just closed up at each end? Meaning, if there is a tunnel within Yehuda v'Shomron, what would be done?
Well, the reality in Yehuda v'Shomron is very different because we control the area. We can arrive to any place and check and try to find. It's not the reality we had in Gaza, where they were on one side and we on the other side, and they did pretty much whatever they want. So I would expect that the Central Command will be able to understand if there is such a threat. In Gaza, to destroy the tunnels, there is really a need to go inside them, place explosives and explode the tunnels. It's complicated. There are a lot of booby traps. There are terrorists inside. We have also other ways of doing this. It's a long process. You need huge amount of explosives to really undergo this whole mission of destroying the tunnels.
Okay, thank you so much. Before October 7th, there was a lot of division within Israeli society. In the weeks following October 7th, the unity has been greater than ever. Are you worried that that unity is breaking apart right now and that we're becoming divided again?
I think the majority of the Israeli society is united. we have, unfortunately, a small radical group that is all about destroying this sense and this unification we have, and we have to oppose this. We really, really need a united society in Israel. It's very, very important.
The Israeli Arabs in Israel, any thoughts about how they are reacting to this war, what their thoughts are about Hamas, what their feelings are being within Jewish communities right now?
Who's feeling sorry, Moshe?
Israeli Arabs. Israeli Arabs.
Israeli Arabs. I think that for a start, they are a bit shocked by the really cruelty of this massacre. They're fairly quiet, but this might change if we'll see Hezbollah attacking Israel. We might see parts of the Arab Israeli society also participating in this war.
There is a top Hamas operative, Muhammad Deif, who was long believed to be paralyzed, missing a leg, not using arms as a result of IDF attacks. And now reports are coming out that that is not the case. And people are pointing to this as a failure of intelligence in the IDF. Do you have any thoughts on this issue?
Well, I don't think that the most important thing is what was exactly the situation with his leg. I mean, we know the guy is alive. We know that he's the real mastermind behind the build-up, the military build-up of Hamas. He's probably hiding together with Sinwar and all the leadership in Khan Yunis. And I hope we eventually arrive at this leadership and do what we need to do, destroy them.
Okay, we're going to go back to a question you touched on in the beginning, but I think it's important. In terms of the increase of casualties in the operations right now, is it because the IDF or the Air Force is engaged in less airstrikes?
No, not at all. It's not because of that. Yesterday, for example, there was massive airstrikes in Gaza. It's mostly because we have to map the underground area in order to find the hostages, in order to find the leadership of Hamas. And this is not something you can do from the air. We need to go into houses. We need to find the entrances. We need to map the underground infrastructure. And this is complicated. It's dangerous. And this is why we have also casualties.
Thank you. Again, I think that was an important point to reiterate. There is a perceived tension between Israel achieving a decisive victory in Gaza and a goal of bringing back the hostages. Is that a real tension? Or do the two equally exist and it's not a problem?
Well, I don't think it's a big tension. I think there is a correlation between our ability to destroy Hamas, to win the war, and to bring back the hostages. The more we endanger Hamas existentially, the more there is a chance to bring them on their knees and have them willing to release the hostages. And if they are not willing to do so, gaining control of the area will enable us to play extremely hard, extremely complicated, extremely dangerous. But this is the way to go. And as long as Hamas doesn't want any deal, which includes a few days of ceasefire for hostages.
We lost you for a minute there. Are you able to go back and repeat that? And I think maybe we'll turn off your video for a second That way you can have better bandwidth for the audio, because I think it's an important answer, but you cut out.
Yeah, so you hear me now? Moshe, you hear me?
Yes, now we hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, we hear you now.
So I
Yes.
think that there is a correlation. There is a correlation between our ability to destroy Hamas and break the hostages. And the more we pressure Hamas militarily, the bigger are the chances to release hostages. This is what happened in the northern part of Gaza. They were pressured very hard. They needed desperately a few days of ceasefire. And this is how we got many hostages. This is what we're doing now. We're pressuring them now in the south and in the center of Gaza. And this is what, at the end of the day, will increase chances to easy. It's hard, it's complicated, it's dangerous, but this is really the way we should handle the war.
Do you think that as the war progresses, the Gazan people themselves will rise up against Hamas?
Yeah. So what we see in Gaza, the more now the society in Gaza is in the south, it's under pressure. We see in Rafah, for example, more and more people complaining, attacking Hamas officials and so on. I think that part of bringing down Hamas is the ability to turn the society against them. And this is something that to a certain extent is starting. We start to see it, especially in the south of Gaza.
Okay, thank you so much, Brigadier General Amir Avivi, for answering this barrage of questions. Thank you, of course, to all of our participants. The internet reception has not been great for today's briefing, and we thank everyone for staying tuned in and listening and understanding. We are at war, and the general is on his way down to the Gaza Strip. So I guess it's one of the issues within war that the internet is not always so great. General, thank you so much. Any final words before we close out for today?
Yeah, I'm sorry about the reception. I'm on my way to speak to soldiers that are soon going into the zone of war in Gaza. So in this area, the reception is not great. But I'm really, today I spent the morning in the headquarters of the IDF, speaking to the general that's in charge of all operations. And overall, it seems that things are going the right way. And we can be optimistic. There is definitely an intent from the government and the army to achieve the goals of war, and this is very, very important.
Okay, thank you so much, General. Thank you to all of our viewers. We will be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, for another briefing. Stay safe, everyone. Stay strong. Take care.